being a product of a lobby group called YK92. So he understands how lobby groups operate and the importance of lobby groups in the management of the country. Yes.
Okay. You said, you've talked about towards the tail end of the campaigns, you guys were brought together.
Yes.
Did you get an opportunity to speak with the president, the then presidential candidate?
Myself, I had an opportunity, and he really appreciated what the lobby groups people had done, because they're the people who had run the narrative from 2018, that the people who were in the trenches running the narrative, doing the mobilization, and these people were doing at will. They were not forced. These are people who were inspired to push this agenda, the deputy president being the leader of the movement.
Now, Mr. Douglas.
Yes.
I'm wondering. You've talked about you guys believing in, his agenda as a presidential candidate, and in leading the country.
Yes.
Now, before I come to his track record and all that, the president is on record talking about his party and he himself being a believer in democracy. I want you to take us through the process of you being, not only the founding member of this particular hustler narrative and, coming up with all those lobby groups and all that, to you being or ascending to the position of the national chairperson of the UDA lobby group. Yes. A position that is recognized by the party.
Yes.
Were elections held, and how was it done?
Yeah, it reached a stage where management and coordination of lobby groups became a problem to the party. So the chairpersons of all lobby groups were invited at the party headquarters on 15th December 2021 by the executive director then, and the communication was that the party was having difficulty in coordinating information and working it out together with the lobby groups. So the chairpersons were asked to have an election and elect one of them who will be the leader, who will be the link between the lobby groups and the party and the deputy president then, Dr. William Samoei Ruto. I had the honor and the privilege to be elected by my fellow chairpersons as the overall chairperson. That is why I can sit here and engage you on these matters.
As well, speak on behalf of the lobby groups.
Yes.
And being an official of the United Democratic Alliance.
Yes.
Now, moving forward, you guys succeeded in helping or propel the president to the highest office in the land.
Yes.
And is now the sitting president.
Yes.
Ever since Dr. President William Ruto took office in September last year, we do know that the elections were disputed, and Mr. Raila Odinga, the opposition leader, went to court. The court upheld the election of Dr. William Ruto.
Yes.
From then to today, there have been, it's safe to say that Raila Odinga still insists that his election was stolen. And he and his troops, some of them do not recognize, they say they will not recognize Dr. William Ruto as the head of state.
Yes.
What is the position as the lobby groups within the country or across the country within the party? What do you guys have to say regarding to this? Because if you look at Raila Odinga, and right now, even we were in the bulletin this morning, Raila Odinga has been talking about going back to the streets. As lobby groups, we do know that the government has put measures in place regardless of how they are. Do you believe in Raila Odinga being genuine in his concerns? He says he's concerned about Kenyans and the tough economic times and what Kenyans are going through. He has said the government, and especially, specifically President Dr. William Ruto, has failed. What do you think about this?
From where I sit, Raila Odinga is the master of deceit. He's not a Democrat of any shade. Raila Odinga has participated in every election, and that is a democracy according to our constitution. I want to ask you, why should you participate in a democratic process and dispute the results all the time? Raila Odinga knows that after election, him with the former president, His Excellency Uhuru Kenyatta, left this country in a deep hole economically. There was no money at the treasury. The debt ceiling was high. So now, His Excellency Dr. William Ruto inherited a government, a country that had no money at all, with a lot of debts to pay. So now, the president is trying to bring this country so that at least he has a balance, so that he can start now implementing his manifesto. There is nowhere in the world where a president or a government can implement its manifesto within months. They must give the president time to implement his manifesto. Implementation of manifesto takes like 5 to 10 years. We in the lobby groups, we are prepared. We have just taken a commercial break, but we are prepared, and we are preparing ourselves to also campaign to His Excellency Dr. William Ruto for his second term, so that he can implement the manifesto of the Kenya Kwanza manifesto fully within 10 years, so that he can change this country to what he desired it to be an economic giant.
Now, Mr. Douglas,
yes,
you talked about it being too early to, of course, questions what the government has done right or what the government has done wrong. Before I come to you in regards to matters 2027, because you've touched on that.
Yes.
The measures that the president is putting in place,
yes,
to, he says, to cushion Kenyans from the tough economic times.
Yes.
Do you believe that is the right direction to go? In terms of, we do know that the cost of, like the president said, the price of common commodities, for example, price of maize flour, recently, last month, came down. And the president has been vocal about this, saying, going forward, the prices will come even lower. But again, there's a concern, and again, I'll want to quote Raila Odinga. He said, especially in the finance bill, that is the finance bill 2023, on the taxation, even on the fuel levy, that the VAT on fuel that is set to double. Do you support the move by the president? Because Odinga and his troops have had some concern on that, and many people and Kenya Kwanza allied leaders are talking about Raila Odinga being part of the government, part of the people who brought the mess in this country. How long do you foresee this problem being solved by the government? How long, should we start maybe expecting to see the move and the decisions of the president yielding good fruits? Because we've talked about it, it is close to almost 10 months after he took over office. For how long should we maybe give him? How long should we give him so that maybe we can, start questioning him? This, you said you'll do this. This has gone wrong. This has gone right. How long? Or how much time should we really, use to gauge the performance of an administration?
As I said, the president found this economy in the ICU. So at the moment, the president is in the ICU trying to resuscitate the economy so that at least it can start breathing. And from where I sit, I know the Kenyans should be patient with the president, because one, Raila Amolo Odinga is part of the problem about economic. He was in the government of the handshake government. He was completely silent. He was not oversighting. He was not performing his role. He was his head was completely in the boat, leaking, and then he leaked everything. So as I said, the president, the Kenyans, and we the hustlers, we are going to be patient with the president, because we know the state in which he caught this economy. It was completely in the ICU. And I believe with the Kenyans to give the president time, at least 3 years. 3 years, at least, the president will now have completely made things to be level, and then you should start seeing now the upward trend of the economy.
Now, I want us to take a short break, but when we come back, touch on, you've really spoken about the economy, and we do know that things are tough as it stands.
Yes.
Parents are, taking their kids to school. They have to pay school fees. They have to cope with the tough economic times. I want us to talk about the bipartisan talks in itself. And Raila Odinga is on record saying, accusing the Kenya Kwanza side of not being genuine.
Yes.
in the talks. Do you really want to pick your mind on that? And do you believe, if you at all you believe that the bipartisan talks is the way forward? And if at all, many people are talking about, Kenya Kwanza leaders are talking about Raila Odinga not being genuine himself. On one side he's accusing the government of not being genuine in the talks. On the other side, the government and the MPs, even the leader of majority, Keitany is talking about Raila Odinga not being genuine in his concerns. And his main concern is not the tough economic times and the economic situation, but him wanting a position for himself in government. We'll come back and talk about that. But on that particular note, we take a short breather, but we'll be back in a moment with this particular conversation with the national chairperson of the UDA lobby groups in the country, that is Mr. Douglas Shiga.
Usiwahi cheza na mboga yangu. Na unafuata nani? Sisikuona ukinifuata. Nimekwambia una shares kwa hii kuku. Look, man.
Hebu kwanza rudi ndani ufresh hiyo choo na make sure umespray.
Juli, kwani wewe? Hii tumbo yako mimi najua inaweza ingiza kila kitu. Hata chuma nikishiaga nikupea, hata plastic najua utakula. Kwani leo kunaendaje? Kuna kitu sielewi.
Kabisa Mluya. Yaani umeamua kulala uchi.
Sasa kama hakuna ile nguo inanitosha, unataka nifanye aje?
Because you are fat.
Sasa ukiongelea mimi ati fat, na Julie tutasemaje?
Kuja.
It's all about trying out fresh meals. As you know, your health comes first. Experience a tasty and sweet aroma in your kitchen today. It's not just about cooking, but also having fun, interesting conversations, keeping it professional, and not forgetting refreshing moments.
Oh, let me tell you, mine is gonna be oh.
The Cook-Off with Alex Karani, Saturdays at 6 p.m.
Why Malindi? Any idea why the A-list celebrities, politicians choose Malindi as a destination? Is it the sandy, spotless white beaches, the rhythmic, relaxing oceanic waves, or is it the great potential investment opportunity that Malindi has to offer? Dagmar learns. We are here with a variety of projects from as low as 99,000 shillings. You get an eighth of an acre with ready title deeds. Book your plot today with only 35,000 shillings and get a free return air ticket. Be the next investor in Malindi with Dark Balance. Call us now on 0740 888 111 or 0740 888 222. Dark Balance. We promise, we deliver. Why wait? 20 Malindi.
Hey darling, are we still on for a coffee date?
I'm waiting for you to come and pick me up.
I should be able to pick you in a few.
It's a coffee yogurt date?
It's not just a yogurt, it's royal coffee yogurt.
Flow with the sweet taste of thick and smooth Royal Fresh coffee yogurt. Royal Fresh, the royal taste of freshness.
Welcome back. This is Lookuptv and you're just in time for the morning drift. We were talking about the hustler narrative, the formation of the hustler government, or what President William Ruto calls it. Most of the time refers to the government as the hustler government, the government of the people. We are with the UDA lobby group national chairperson, that is Mr. Douglas Shiyuka, the man behind the hustler narrative, and he's just talking to us about the coming up of the idea in itself, the Jipangen hustler movement. And Mr. Douglas, right before the break, we were talking about matters economy. And I don't want us to talk about the bipartisan talks, because as a national chairperson of the UDA lobby group, you represent a lot of people across the country in the party.
Yes.
Mr. Odinga and Dr. William Ruto, His Excellency the President, decided they will engage in talks or bipartisan talks.
Yes.
After all, the president has been specific, saying it will only be done through parliament. Mr. Odinga and his troops wanted an extra parliament affair. And the president has insisted there will be no talks outside parliament. Now, first of all, Raila Odinga accuses the Kenya Kwanza side of not being genuine. That is why they came back to the streets last week on Tuesday. And they were to go back to the streets on Thursday if the Kenya Kwanza side had not withdrawn the name of Elders MP Adan Keinan from the list of the bipartisan talks, because they said he's a member of the Azimio One Kenya team. But we do know that the party itself, there is wrangles within the Jubilee Party. We'll talk about that later on. In your own view, and being the representative of all the lobby groups in the country within the United Democratic Alliance, do you believe Raila Odinga is true in his quest about economic revolution, about the tough economic times on the common man, or is it about positions like, Kenya Kwanza allied leaders are talking about? And Raila Odinga has, of course, refuted those claims. Where do you sit on this as the lobby groups within the country?
As I said earlier, the leader of opposition, the Right Honorable Raila Amolo Odinga, has never been genuine. Is not a believer in democracy. He can't be believed. Raila Amolo Odinga should respect the democracy and the constitution and the constitutional arms of the government on which they operate. The constitution is not suspended. And therefore, all things should follow the law. Raila Amolo Odinga sings about democracy, but history has shown that he's not a believer in democracy. If Raila Odinga is a believer in democracy, why has he not respected Parliament? Because as the opposition, we have the Parliament as an arm of the government to debate and make laws, not outside the parliament. So we as lobby groups, we support the president that the bipartisan talks should take shape in parliament where laws are debated and made. Number two, Raila is not genuine about these demands. Raila Amolo Odinga wants to come to government through the back door. That is what he's doing. He's trying to apply what we call disruptive strategy, whereby you come and disrupt and then pretend you are now coming to make peace. So that is what Raila Odinga is doing, and that is what he has always been doing. He wants to make sure that there is no peace, there is disruption, and then he comes and says, let's sit down and discuss. What is the cause of that disruption? We are not going to allow that. And he cannot hoodwink and think that we in lobby groups, as men as we are, we can follow him. We cannot. He must give the president time to make and fix the economy.
Now, Mr. Douglas, Raila Odinga, rooting for the extra parliament route, talked about representation of other people, representation of teachers, lobby groups. Do you, and as the national chairperson of the UDA lobby groups, do you believe you guys are well represented through the members of parliament? Because Raila Odinga said, no, we need real people. We need the youth, represented in those talks. We need, professional represented in those groups, in those talks. We need religious leaders involved in those talks. We need professionals. Do you as lobby groups believe that through the members of parliament, your interests will be addressed in those talks?
Of course, yes. In parliament, we have got youthful members of parliament who are elected or nominated to represent the issues of the youth. In parliament, we have got religious people, who are elected or nominated to represent religious matters. So we, as lobby groups members all over the country, we believe these issues can be debated and finalized in parliament. We do not, Raila Amolo Odinga is trying to enlarge the committee so that the problem looks to be bigger. And that's where he is now creating his entry point to the government through the back door.
Now, before we go back to matters, politics within the political parties, and the Kenya Kwanza in itself as well, on the center stage of these talks,
yes,
in the folding of political parties, Raila Odinga has hinted at going back to the streets, and he's given the administration, the Kenya Kwanza administration, and of course directly President Dr. William Ruto, an ultimatum of 2 days. That is today, Tuesday, the 9th of May 2023, and tomorrow, the 10th of May 2023. After which, if those 2 days lapse and the talks have not kick-started, they are going back to the streets. What's your take on this? Because we do know, and we've seen before, if they retreat to going back to the streets or embarking in to the anti-government demonstrations. During the first anti-government demonstrations, a lot happened. People closed down their businesses, and if people close down businesses, it translates to the economy being hurt. And the Nairobi County government attributed, they only collected half their daily collections in terms of revenue. That means the economy suffers a lot. And not only the economy, there are, thousands of people, millions of people, or thousands within this capital who depend on, their daily earnings to be able to fend for their families. As lobby groups, because you represent these people, the people on the streets doing businesses and all that. What do you have in place to ensure that, if at all, and we've seen the president himself being vocal saying they will not allow those demonstrations within the central business district. And he's on record, the president, saying he is the commander-in-chief and he will stop those demonstrations by any means possible. What is your take on, continuing, going back to the streets?
I think the president took the oath of office to defend and safeguard the interests of Kenyans. And from where I sit as the chair, I think Raila is crossing the red line. And I think if he goes on the streets and his followers destroy people's property, ABCD, we think the president should assert his authority as the commander-in-chief and take care of this nation. He is in charge. We shall support him. Raila is not above the law. In the event he leads people to destroy and hurt each other, we urge the president to exercise his powers in the constitution and arrest Raila. Well, Raila is not above the law.
Arresting Raila would be a totally different debate because, like you said, Raila Odinga is not above the law.
Above the law.
Nobody's above the law.
Yes.
Now, away from the man-to-man and the anti-government protests and bipartisan talks, to party politics.
Yes.
Being the national chairperson of the UDA lobby group.
Yes.
There has been the talk, and when former Kakamega senator, and he had gubernatorial ambitions, but he lost to Fernandez Barras of ODM, and he conceded defeat.
Yes.
Was picked to be the Secretary General of the ruling party.
Yes.
The United Democratic Alliance. And from then, Mr. Malala talked about folding of the parties within the Kenya Kwanza government and it being a single party. Almost similar to what Jubilee Party did. Now, when someone hears Kenya Kwanza, is Kenya Kwanza a party in itself? Or is it several parties that come together? Or what is the dynamics around the Kenya Kwanza parties in itself? And before we talk about the politics of folding parties.
Thank you so much for that question. I think that question is too big for me to attempt to answer, but I'll say this, that Honorable Cleophas Malala, Secretary General of the United Democratic Party, is my boss, and his job is to make the party, UDA party, to be strong. It is in his right as the Secretary General to suggest that all the parties to fold so that they fall under the UDA. That is his job. That is his job. But I think folding of parties, the only people who can decide about folding of parties are the principles of the Kenya Kwanza coalition. Those are the people who can discuss about the folding of Kenya Kwanza parties into one. And for that matter, you need to remember that there is an agreement that brought together the Kenya Kwanza government. The Kenya Kwanza coalition consists of 3 parties. The Kenya Kwanza coalition consists of 3 parties. That is United Democratic Alliance Party, Amani National Congress, and Fort Kenya. Those are the 3 parties that appended the signatures that formed the Kenya Kwanza coalition. Then we have got other parties which came later on, like the Pamoja African Alliance, Maendeleo Chap Chap, that entered into agreement with the Kenya Kwanza coalition. That is the difference.
So where does, I know you talked about not being in a position to talk about it.
Yes.
But eventually, and there's been the talk about what happened, something the same to happen to the Jubilee Party happening within the Kenya Kwanza, coalition. Kenya Kwanza, United Democratic Alliance, Ford Kenya, and Amani National Congress.
Yes.
It being the 3 founding parties that signed,
Kenya Kwanza.
Yes. Signed a coalition within themselves.
Yes.
There are some other small parties,
yes,
if you'd call them that.
Yes.
The talk, of course, there's been some calm about it. I don't know whether the president intervened because there was a very, very big debate concerning whether it is the right move to fold those parties. Now, I want us to come back to, the lobby groups.
Yes.
And you've said there are over 100 lobby groups across the country.
Yes.
As the lobby groups, what are your expectations? And as the national chairperson, what are the expectations of the members you're representing with the Kenya Kwanza government?
Our expectations as people, patriotic Kenyans, who supported who were in the trenches, who walked this country, all over this country, supporting the deputy president, supporting the Kenya Kwanza government. Our main objective was to deliver the presidency of Kenya Kwanza. Our main objective was to make His Excellency Dr. William Samoei Ruto to be the president. We achieved our first and main objective. Now, being part of the government, we trust in the judgment of His Excellency the Deputy President. And as I said, he is a product of a lobby group called YK92. Forming a government is not just like taking tea. Forming government is a process. And we are patiently waiting. If he happens to pick some of us to serve in government, we shall appreciate. But me as the chairman, you know, when you are a father in the house and there is food, automatically you normally leave the children to eat first, and then as a father you eat last. So me, I will have no problem if he can place other people in the government. If I'm the last one and then you close the door, there's no problem. Me, I'm okay. But I'm ready to serve in any position he can feel fit for me, but I'm not demanding for it, and I know I'm trusting the process.
Trusting the process.
Yes.
Now, not only is the talk about, if there will be positions for you or the members who are the priority, like you've said, but there may be issues that lobby groups want the president and the administration to address, because the president has been vocal about, when he was campaigning, he was vocal about supporting SACCOs, women, lobby groups. What are some of the reasons that the president and the government, you do want the government to, maybe prioritize?
I know one of the pillars of the legacy of His Excellency Dr. William Ruto is about economy, making this country to be an economic tiger. And some of the economic structures is coming up with the SACCOs. Already, our members have registered SACCOs, which they are going to implement to service the operations. And we are waiting, as he said, maybe the end of this month or next month, he will roll out the Hustler Fund that is going to serve the SACCOs and groups. So we're waiting for that. We have prepared our members, we have registered SACCOs, and we are waiting for him to roll out. And we serve ourselves.
Talking about the Hustler Fund, there was the big question surrounding the fund in itself, and even members of the opposition weighed in on the matter, saying the funds in itself, you can't do anything with maybe the 600 bob that you are given. Do you believe, and how efficient is this particular fund? Because we do know the first phase of it was funds and given to people directly, and is set to roll the funds to SACCOs and lobby groups. How effective do you think this Hustler Fund will be, not only to individuals and people who are running businesses on their own? How effective will it be to SACCOs and lobby groups across the country? And how crucial is it to ensuring that people in these lobby groups and SACCOs are able to sustain themselves economically?
For you to have an economic policy, money must circulate. So the formation of SACCOs and the Hustler Fund is a very brilliant idea for the economy, because without money circulating, then the economy is dead. So the president, through the Hustler Fund, I think he brought out a very brilliant idea so that people and money can circulate to generate and to make the economy grow. So we support it and we're ready for it.
Mr. Douglas, even as we wrap
Shiuka.
up, Mr. Douglas Shiuka,
yes, Shiuka. Yes.
As we wrap up this particular conversation this morning,
yes,
there is the concern by millions of people outside in the country about the economic situation in the country, and many of them in lobby groups that you represent,
yes,
safe to say, some of them are struggling maybe. You've said we should give the government time. But how long is too long? Because at the end of the day, there's someone out there who lives hand to mouth every day. And you will wait to a point whereby you maybe cannot wait any longer. So how long is too long? In terms of implementing his economic agenda for the country, you've talked about 3 years, but
at most
3 years. Because I wanted to ask you, isn't that too long? Because you've also talked about, you said it's too early to judge the government in itself. But as well, you talked about lobby groups supporting the president in the next general election.
Yes.
Is it also not too early to talk about the 2027 general election?
It's not too early, because in all these things, we have targets and timelines. You cannot marry a woman today and tomorrow you expect him to conceive and get a baby. There is a period, at least of 9 months. So Raila pushing the president to show delivery, to show the results, and you are not yet finished even 1 year, it's like marrying a woman and then tomorrow telling you, I want a baby here, or we are going to be, or you go back home. So me, what I think is the president has got able hands who are working under him to midwife this economy and propel it to the next level. What we need, because as I said earlier, the president got this economy in a hole, in a very deep hole that was made by the handshake brothers. And Raila Amolo Odinga knows that they left this country in a hole, and that's why he does not want to give the president, His Excellency the President, time to make things happen so that he can move it to the next economic level. So we are asking Raila Amolo Odinga. He knows where he left the economy. There was no money in the treasury. The debt ceiling was too high. The president is scrabbling with filling the hole and paying the debts and stabilizing the economy. So that's where the president is now. That's why, as lobby groups, we are asking Raila Amolo Odinga to abandon his demonstrations and give the president time so that he can prove peacefully this is what my manifesto.
Well, talking about manifestos and all that, in your own view, Mr. Shika,
yes,
up to now, do you think the Ruto administration has performed, or how do you rate Mr. Ruto's administration and his performance, or the performance of Mr. Ruto's administration up to now, in terms of, addressing the plight of the hustlers? And even as we, talk about 2027, will the narrative still be about the hustlers, or will the problems surrounding the hustlers will the problems have been solved by then, and what happens next? And I really want to know, how do you rate the performance of the president so far?
So far, I think the president has performed very well, because when he took power, the price for unga was 230. Now it's between 150 and 170. That's a plus. The other day, you saw now that he has increased sponsorship at the university level. That's a plus. So you see, given time, within no time, I'm sure all the spheres, education policy, foreign policy, economic policy, are going to be tackled and brought to the level.
Finally, Mr. Shika.
Yes.
What would be, your rallying call to your members countrywide? Because I know a lot of them are watching, listening into what you're saying, and you being the face of the lobby groups across the country within the party in itself. What would be your rallying call to them in regards to the performance of the government and what the government has in store for them?
What I can tell my members all over the country is that we give the president time to sort out the issues. He knows we are there. Him being a product of the lobby groups, he knows we are there, and we give him time to implement his manifesto. And I know within time, before even 5 years, we shall see the fruits of electing His Excellency Dr. William Samoei Ruto. We are asking Raila to stop maandamano and give the Kenya Kwanza administration peace to set off the implementation of its manifesto.
Mr. Shiyuka, thank you very much for joining us this morning here on Lookuptv. We hope to see you again around. And we hope that at least the government, like you've said, will be able to settle things down and ensure that each and every Kenyan is cushioned economically, and at least everybody will have money to put food on the table for their families. Thank you so much for coming, Mr. Douglas.
Thank you so much.
That was Mr. Douglas Shiyuka, the national chairperson of the United Democratic Alliance, a lobby group, that is the ruling party. He was here dissecting matters, the Asla narrative, how it came up, and the performance of course, the administration so far so good. He's talked about, from the president rolling out the Asla fund to the measures he's trying to put in place to ensure that the economy stabilizes. But all that can only translate to a matter of time. We'll see what the government will be able to do in the time that they'll be in office. And if by then, like the president says, he will be judged based on his track record. While he was trying to ascend to power in 2022 last year during the general elections, or in the run-up to the general elections, he talked about his track record from being a youth leader to being the MP for Eldoret North to the Minister for Agriculture, Higher Education, to the Deputy President, to now the President. Come 2027, he will be judged based on his track record. On that note, we'll wrap up this conversation, but we'll just be going on a short breather here. I will be back with a conversation surrounding affordable housing in the country. We do know that affordable housing is one of the concerns by the president, and he's been launching affordable housing in different parts of the country just to ensure that Kenyans living by their means, be it low-class income earners or middle-class income earners, at least get good housing. Don't go away.
Sensei Institute of Technology is the home to the best practical courses, giving you a hands-on experience to handle the world. For you to join us, ensure you have your national ID card and be ready to enjoy the ride. Sensei College, my skills, my future.
Hi, and welcome to Tujenge Home. Your #1 show when it comes to all things architecture, real estate, property development, interior design. You get it right here on Tujenge Home. When the food is ready.
You want to serve them?
Dinner is served. Let's go! Let's go!
Good to have you join us on Heart to Heart.
We bring you stories of people who, despite the pressures they experience,